Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. My two co-hosts, Hall and Reed, will be joining me very soon, I hope. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We are rejoined by all-star busy man himself from the Senior Bowl, Mr. Logan Paulsen. Thank you for blessing us with your presence on this Thursday evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And I got to get your opinion on this first because I'm not sure if you guys are out there golfing or not, but the Senior Bowl is going on right now. And so obviously it's practices and everything. But as an evaluator, as a scout, as a coach, Logan, what are they looking for out of the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, I think the Senior Bowl affords coaches a really cool opportunity. You know, you get to have kind of sit-down interviews with players, much like you would at the Combine. So it's kind of another data point to kind of flesh out your evaluation. And I think the other thing in terms of watching it and being here, you get to kind of get a feel for the guy, how they are in between drills, how they are with the other guys on the team, and kind of what kind of teammate they could potentially be. And then I think the major thing is that, you know, for example, some of these guys go to small schools. They see one, maybe two draftable players throughout their whole career. And here you get to see them go against, you know, I think last year, 80% of the guys who went to the Senior Bowl were drafted. So you get to see them go up against like top, maybe not the first round talent guys, because a lot of those guys aren't here, but you get to see them go against guys who are going to be playing in the NFL, and you get to see, you know, how they move, how they stack up. And I think that to me has been very, very valuable because it helps you kind of finalize an evaluation. Finalize is maybe the wrong word. It helps you complete an evaluation. So, you know, I've watched a lot of film on the offensive lineman, and there's questions about, you know, is this guy athletic enough to play in the NFL? Is he athletic enough to start? Is he strong enough to start? And you get to see them going against guys who will be playing on Sundays. You know, they might not be starters, but I think that's been a huge value add for me personally being down here. And I know talking with some of the scouts down here that I spoke with, that's a big value add for them as well.
Yeah, because like I know just for speaking from my perspective, like when I'm watching film on a college prospect, I want to gauge like the most realistic possibility of playing in the NFL. That way you can kind of mimic the competition level. And I guess that's what you're saying about these kind of lower level prospects where they're going against better competition. Whereas if you're watching film on them, you probably get only one or two games where they're actually going against some NFL competition.
Yeah, and then you get kind of, in addition to the competition level, you also get some scheme agnostic stuff. So what I mean by that is like the tackle from Tennessee, Darnell Wright, for example, he played in like kind of a spread system. The tight end wasn't next to him a ton. And you're like, well, how does he do it in a more kind of run first approach or whatever? And so here, everyone's kind of in the same system. You get to see them work the same blocks. You get to see them work the same techniques, and you get to see how they learn those techniques. So I really think it is quite, I mean, it's tremendously valuable. You know, having been down here, like I really see why it's so important. And it's just a really cool event for sure.
Absolutely. I know a lot of Jim Nagy has done a really good job with that. But before you went down the Senior Bowl, I told you, watch out for my boy Darnell Wright. Absolutely love this right tackle from Tennessee. I think he's the best lineman in the draft, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't care how crazy I sound. But has there been any early prospects that have impressed through practices? Obviously, they're just practices, but you get a lot of info out of those.
Yeah, I mean, the practices are really the main key of the evaluation because that's where everyone's going against each other. I think the offensive line to me has just been probably the strength of this Senior Bowl. I think, you know, Darnell Wright has looked outstanding. Stein, I don't know how to say his name, the left tackle from Alabama has looked very good. Matthew Broderick from Syracuse has looked good. Dewan Jones, the right tackle from Ohio State, the big guy, 6'8", 375.
He's mean, isn't he?
He looked great the first day, but then has missed the last two practices. Someone said it was a concussion, but it kind of feels like because he had such a productive day, the agent was like, "You've shown what you needed to show." The center from Minnesota,
Michael Schmitz,
has looked very, very good. And I think just overall, the group has looked great, you know, and guys that you weren't necessarily expected, like the guard from TCU or the guard from Chattanooga, they've come and they've got to play. And so to me, like, it just bodes really well for Washington. You know, the DB group here right now is not the strongest group in the world, but, you know, the top 10 cornerbacks that are probably going to go in the first round are not here, right? So I look at this and I say, if they want to take a corner in the first round, which seems very reasonable given that's one of the strengths of the draft, then there's all these offensive linemen here at the Senior Bowl who will be available when they pick in the second round. So I just think, like, for a team that needs probably some help in the secondary, for a team that needs help along the offensive line, the middle of this offensive line class seems to be very good. And I had some conversations with some guys at PFF, some scouts, and they were in agreement with me. And I think if you're a Washington fan, that should get you really excited.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of teams that need some offensive line help, but Washington is not on the outside looking in that perspective. But one of the news from this week was that Coach Rivera had met with Anthony Lynn not only once, but also had a follow-up informal meeting to gauge if there was mutual interest. What do you think that means with Anthony Lynn, and do you think that's a good hire if it were to happen for OC?
I think that's beautifully ambiguous, which is probably what that they're trying to do. So what I would assume it means, and again, like you're reading between the lines a little bit, is that like some of these coaches, like Lynn, like is on a team that will probably be contending for a Super Bowl next year. Same thing with a guy like Bieniemy who's up for an interview. So is the fact that they put in a request for an interview doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. So they want to make sure that he's all in on this job opportunity. And I think that's just good, sound business practice. And I don't think there's anything too unusual about that, especially given kind of, I don't want to say kind of the unique parameters of this OC position, given the ownership situation and given Ron's kind of year-long leash. The coordinator wants to be making sure that he's coming to the right situation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now we are joined by our guest, Michael Reed. How you doing, brother? You got a question for Logan?
I don't even know what we're talking about, but I will say, Logan, your hair looks good. It's
Thanks.
looking tight. You got it nice trimmed. The beard's looking tight.
I appreciate that.
You look
brother.
good, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's from you. I mean, a guy of your pedigree, it's important.
Right. Yeah, it's somebody who's as fit as me, and I think it's good. Yeah.
All right, so Logan, looking at this offseason, they have projected $32 million in cap space at the moment if they were to release Carson Wentz in the offseason. Mm-hmm. We all expect that to happen. No disrespect to Carson. But how do you think that they're going to go about free agency? Because Daron Payne is sitting there. Cam Curl is going to be needing a deal in the near future as well. What do you think happens in free agency for this team? Do you expect any big moves or more like depth pieces?
I think you're probably looking at more depth pieces because I think the positions that you have a high need at are kind of weak in free agency. Like there's the cornerback group in free agency is not overly strong. The offensive tackle group in free agency is not overly strong outside of one or two names. And unfortunately, you're going to have to pay a lot of money. So if you do want to extend Payne, extend Curl, like those are probably decisions you need to make early. And if you do make those decisions, they're going to hamper your ability to bring in a priority free agent or a high price free agent. So I think that if I was guessing, I think their priority this offseason is going to be Payne and figuring out what they want to do there. It feels like they're going to do a franchise tag. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. And again, I think if I'm Payne, I'm going to push pretty hard to make a lot of money in this contract because he's been very productive and he deserves it. So I do think that that's going to be a priority. It'll be interesting to see if they can find some common ground. But as of right now, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say franchise tag.
And the last time that you were on here, you had talked about, you just theorized, you speculated that possibly Daron Payne could be worth, a first rounder, possibly in a trade scenario. Have you heard anything, or do you have any inklings in that sense?
No, I mean, I've talked to a couple of people who are I talked to a guy from PFF who mentioned that you could get like a late first, second caliber or a high second kind of pick for him and maybe a third in the following year. So, for a team that needs pieces to build around and, I think everyone says, oh, you need to have Payne here. You need to re-sign him. And I don't want to disparage Payne because I think he was outstanding. And I want him to get every kind of money and opportunity that he needs. But I do also think that, two other pieces on a team that needs to fill out the roster a little bit specifically along the offensive line would be a big deal. And we just talked about kind of the value in the second round with the offensive line. And so you could end up with two very, very capable starters with a second round pick this year and a guy that's going to be a stalwart on that offensive line. So hopefully they get it worked out. I just think Payne's you're going to have to back the Brinks truck up for him to get him here. And I'm not sure that is the smartest decision for roster composition moving forward.
Right. And I don't know what you guys have talked about so far, but Logan, what did you think of Sam Howell? What did you see from him? And were you impressed at all?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I mean, I think
You caused
Sam.
some fireworks, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the thing is with the Sam Howell thing specifically is, everyone had this like this belief that he was going to come in and like save the team, and I think
Yeah.
that like an unrealistic expectation of the guy. I think he's very talented. I've always thought he's talented. It's just he's a fifth round pick for a reason, So I think it's important for fans to kind of temper expectations. And in terms of the game, I think he did a great job. You got to see kind of the quick release, the arm talent, the escapability, the mobility, the awareness in the pocket, all those things were great. But if you think about the composition and the structure of the game, I think that's an important variable to consider, right? You're up 10-0 in the first quarter, and the Dallas offense can't do anything. So it allows you as a coordinator, it allows you as a play caller to really insulate what Sam does. And so I do think he showed you some things that say, hey, we feel good about him, with an opportunity to be the starter next year. But I do think if you're Ron and the staff, you need to say we need to bring in a veteran, Taylor Heineke, whoever that is. Jacoby Brissett is a name I've heard floated around there as an example. But I think he did a great job, and it's just about can he continue to grow and continue to develop.
I absolutely agree with you. And that's a big question going into the offseason of how it's going to be starting. My next question, though, Ron Rivera had everyone going crazy with this 2-to-1 ratio that him and Mayhew talked about running the football. So one of the theories I've heard is that would limit the wide receivers. Then why did you pay Terry McLaurin? Why did you draft Jahan Dotson? Are you worried that a run-centric approach would limit the wide receivers?
No, I'm not worried about that at all. I think like look at teams, look at some of the best offenses around the league right now. San Francisco, Minnesota, they are run first teams, and is Justin Jefferson limited in that offense? No. Like it if anything, it alleviates some of the challenges that the quarterback has to make from a reading the defense standpoint. It allows for more space. It allows for more separation because the linebackers have to fit runs. It manipulates defenses in a specific way. So I don't think that's an issue at all. And I think obviously the 2-to-1 ratio is a little bit of an exaggeration. I think the highest run ratio last year was like 58% by the Atlanta Falcons. But I do think that I understand where they're coming from. And I understand it's just about getting a guy in here, a play caller in here that can kind of formulate, we're going to pass on first down. We're going to run on second down. We're going to find ways to cultivate these big shot opportunities. And, I look at San Francisco as a good example. I look at Miami as a good example of a run first offense. Like they find ways to facilitate the football to their playmakers, even under the guise of being run first. I mean, Green Bay, when Davante Adams was there, was a run first team. So
you're right.
Like there's not I don't think that's a big deal. In fact, I think that's it's an intelligent way to elevate, limited quarterback play.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good, the Davante Adams thing. That's true. Green Bay was huge into running the football.
Yeah.
But put on your GM cap real fast, and let's just pretend that the Commanders, they keep the picks that they have. What are you doing in the first and second round? Because I see a lot of people saying you've got to go cornerback, then O-line. We got to go O-line, then cornerback. We got to go quarterback. What do you do? What is Logan Paulsen, the great LP, doing?
Well, I think I was just talking with Kyle a little bit about the strength of like kind of the middle of this offensive line class, and I think the top end of this cornerback class is very, very high. So if I can get an elite starting corner in the first round, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards at the moment, I like the offensive lineman in the first round, but I don't think there's a big of a gap as a lot of people want to indicate, between those first 3 or 4 guys and then the next, probably 5 to 8 guys. I think they're closer than people want to admit. And for whatever reason, the mock drafts, the scouts kind of visualize these guys as second round talents. I'm okay with that because I think they're like at the Senior Bowl here. There's a lot of those guys. I think there's probably 5 or 6 guys that I think, I gave green grades to, which means they could start for an NFL team. And so I'm going to take that in the second round if that's there. So I think
has Cody Mauch been good?
He's been playing guard. I think he's been outstanding, and I think I've been leaning more towards tackle because I think, there's been all this talk about moving Cosme to guard and Chris Paul stepping up. I think I've been focusing on tackle and center specifically, right? So the kid from Minnesota has been great. Smith from Tennessee has been great. All we just kind of went through them, but they've all been very, very talented. They're good athletes. They're physical. They're kind of wired the right way. So I'd probably go cornerback in the first round. Those guys seem like they're hyper talented. O-line in the second round. And then I'd probably look, hopefully, one of those centers. All three centers have been very, very good here. And one of those centers slips you in the third round. So you get your cornerback of the future, an offensive tackle to build around, and then your young center that everyone's been kind of calling for. So if I was going to give a 3-round mock, like in a perfect world for Washington, I'd say that's what it looks like.
And
you've be our GM, Logan.
Yeah, and we talked before earlier in the season. We talked about Sam Cosmi moving in at guard when he became healthy, and you weren't really a fan of it because you knew that he was the tackle and you needed that tackle depth there. Do you still feel the same way
about him moving to guard?
Yes.
I don't. If I said that, then I misspoke because I've always been a guy who thought that Cosmi would maybe be more effective at guard just because of his arm. Like I think he's a good tackle. I think he could be a great guard. And I think just because of how twitchy he is, his length, his mindset with regards to the running game, I think that skill set and that body type really lends itself to an elite guard. He's got to want to do it. It's got to be important to him. But I remember I went back before midway through the season and checked my notes and said, like, I think Cosmi would be, and one of the notes I had him on Cosmi was that I think he'd be an excellent guard. And I remember talking to some people that I have a lot of respect for, O-line coaches specifically. They said, yeah, he can play tackle. He's athletic enough to play tackle, but I think he'd be an elite guard. And so I think this is a good move if Cosmi can handle the switch, which is, again, that's up to him.
Yeah. In your defense, what your rationale was, he's the backup swing tackle, and if something happens to Leno, they have to move Lucas left tackle. What are you going to do at right tackle now? And so that was your rationale behind it. But you did say he fit.
It was during
well.
the season.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So obviously, like when you're lacking depth at the position, like that becomes a little bit more challenging. Right. But in terms of career trajectory, I've been a big believer of him at guard if mentally he can handle it, I guess.
I got you. Now to wrap this up, I only have a couple more questions for you. But like, let's kind of talk about this team overall. Like, what do you feel about the running back position? There's been people speculating that possibly Bijan Robinson in the first round, which is, well, we could talk about being crazy or not. But what do you think that they should do with running back? Because I'm not sure if J.D. McKissic's going to be back next season. Hopefully he's healthy. Do you think that they should go after a running back in this draft?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think it's going to be Bijan Robinson at 16. I just think this team has too many other holes. And I think, while Bijan Robinson could be an elite player, like running back production is directly linked to offensive line efficiency. And right now, like, look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and, they have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and they have a second-round pick starting for them. They have, right. Boston Scott getting very productive carries. Kansas City, I think, is the number 2 rated offensive line in the NFL after Philadelphia, and they have a 7th-round pick leading them in carries, right? Like, it's more about the offensive line efficiency and positional value of running back. To me, I wouldn't take a running back in the first round ever. I kind of feel that way about tight ends also. And I know that's kind of crazy to say being a former tight end, but I just think the positions, you get better value from other positions in the first round. So offensive line, defensive line, secondary players, even linebackers to me are getting somewhat devalued, unless you're like an elite player. So that's kind of my thought on the running back thing. And I think the other thing is just being here at the Senior Bowl, for example, like there's 6 good running backs, like they're all going to play in the NFL. And so why am I going to mortgage something on a player that's going to be a rotational piece here in Washington when I can say, hey, the kid from Kentucky, he's 230 pounds, he's 5'11". He looked awesome the first 2 days before he had to sit out today. So I say to myself, like, if I want 3 big physical guys, then I can pick him up in the 5th round, and I won't even, think twice about it. So that's kind of my thought on the running back. And obviously Bijan is a, kind of a generational talent. But I do think if you want to bring a generational talent in here, people compare him to Adrian Peterson. Yeah. And I'll say, look at that offensive line when he was there in Minnesota. That was the best run blocking offensive line for like 4 years in a row. There is a correlation. And I think it's important for fans to be aware of that when selecting players like a running back.
You got to give them good weapons around them, meaning the good offensive line.
Sure.
This is a very serious question, so we got to take it very seriously, Logan. How, as a player, is it such a bad look for Ron Rivera to be golfing in California at Pebble Beach during the Senior Bowl?
I don't think that's a big deal at all. I think that is the opposite of a big deal. What's the opposite of a big deal, Mike? We got
me.
So yeah, I mean, because I talked to Marty's down here. I talked to Marty. Jack Del Rio's down here. I talked to Jack. Ken Zampese's down here. Like, how many people do you want down here? I guess is my question. And you hire Marty to do stuff like this so that Ron doesn't have to. And I think, like Ron does a lot of stuff in the immediate weeks following the season that a lot of other coaches don't do on the staff. So this is his week off. So send Marty down here. Ken wanted to come, send Ken down here. Jack wanted to check out the DBs. Like, great, they're here. And then Ron can kind of defer to their opinion on the Senior Bowl. And that's the other thing people don't understand. Like, they have film. And I know a lot of coaches that I've worked with prefer to watch the film of the Senior Bowl as opposed to actually being at the Senior Bowl, because I kind of understand that perspective having been here. It's hard to see everything you want to see. So why not just watch the practice film and get an evaluation that way? So while I think, a lot of fans are going to be freaked out about it, like, of all the events to miss, I mean, shoot, like 4 or 5 head coaches missed the combine last year. They didn't go, right? Because they get all the stuff on like the iPads or whatever. Right. So to me, this is not a big deal. He'll go through his evaluation. He'll watch his film. He'll talk to Marty. Not a big deal. I think the only thing he's missing out on is interviews, but that's why every scout for Washington is here. Like, I just had a conversation day with one during one-on-one pass rush, and there's 5 scouts from Washington here watching one-on-one. So, like, how many people do you need down here to cultivate an opinion on these guys? I mean, there's enough guys here.
Right. Also, it's not like they've been missing on draft picks the last few years.
Right.
I mean,
and like,
doing a pretty good job.
It reminds me of what my uncle would always say when he asked us to do something when we were working with him. He would say, if I have to do it, what am I paying you for?
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Whatever. But my last question for you, my favorite DB, my favorite corner in this draft is Christian Gonzalez, just based off what I saw on him on film. But slightly behind him is Devin Witherspoon. Like, it's 1A and 1B for me. And, like, my question to you is, like, the versatility of Devin Witherspoon would obviously be plug and play here, where you would still keep Kendall obviously on the outside, and Devin could be that slot guy for you until he moves outside. Where do you think the versatility works in that aspect? Do you have it, like, as a higher grade in that breath?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it just depends on what you're looking for. Like, when I watched Witherspoon's tape, like, I was super impressed with him because he's physical at the catch point. He's got ball skills. He's very instinctive. He's very aware. Very similar, I think, in mindset to Kendall Fuller, who watches a lot of film, and you can tell he watches a lot of film. So I think it really just depends on fit. And I think, like Benjamin St. Juste, when they drafted him, was like an outside corner, quote unquote, but he had inside abilities and he never showed that. I think it's just about the guy and the mindset. So, for example, Gonzalez might be a hell of a slot corner. Who knows?
Right.
But I do think that I think it just depends on the guy and the situation and what you're asking them to do and how you're going to coach them. So, I think Witherspoon, I loved his tape. I haven't watched Gonzalez yet. I've watched a couple of the other guys. I don't think there's really a wrong answer necessarily with that top group of guys. Because I think, let's say you pick a guy who can only play outside. I think Kendall is probably nearing a point in his career where he's going to move to safety or going to move back to nickel. So, maybe this is kind of your safeguard for that.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense because I've been trying to battle that in my head. But obviously, I wouldn't be mad with any of those cornerbacks in the first round. They would definitely help us. Logan, I can't thank you enough for joining us on this very busy day. I know that you have a lot going on, so whenever you have time for us, dude, I really do appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you guys accommodating. And I know Mike had to get you out of bed to get on here, but I appreciate you getting it.
You're just ruining my schedule.
Have a good night, Logan. Enjoy the Senior Bowl, brother.
Thanks, guys. Take it
Thanks,
easy.
brother. Man, that was awesome. Logan got a zing on you.
Yeah, but I let it happen, and it's also like I can't say anything because of the restraining order. So it's like,
Yeah, you are like a rock in a hard place in that sense.
Yeah,
but guys, this is the 1-year anniversary of the Commanders. It's crazy. It's been 1 year already. Do you remember this time last year people were flipping out about not getting a Letterman jacket? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, dude. Remember when they flew the drone over the stadium and leaked the name?
Absolutely hysterical. So we thought that we would celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Commanders with none other than Coach Greg Curl, who, he doesn't throw ripples through shockwaves through social media. He's a very cool cat, aren't you, sir? How you doing?
What's up, fellas? What's up?
Hey, good to talk to you, sir. Obviously, I really did enjoy that tweet of yours talking about Cam Curl and his possible contract coming up. And I just wanted to ask you before we get into our fan question, sir, if you wanted to elaborate on that, because there's been a lot said about your tweet.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of that game. I don't know if you guys played it in high school where you sit in a big group and you whisper in somebody's ear.
The telephone
and then by the
game.
time the story gets back to you, it's changed. Because I've seen the titles of podcasts saying where I said that Cameron is requesting $80 million or Cameron is requesting 80 million. Cameron hasn't said a word. I know just as much as everybody else on here know. I'm not Cameron's agent, and me and Cameron don't talk about business. That's his business. I was letting the world know what I felt he was worth. And that's my opinion. Hey,
heck yeah, coach.
and
That's your son.
exactly.
Come on.
To be honest, I think 80 mil is a deal.
Yeah,
my man.
Hey,
Dude,
they didn't got the lowest paid starter in the NFL for 3 years.
and look at what they've gotten out of him.
Yes. So hey, I mean, I was just, I was speaking my mind. Cam had nothing to do with that, But I know how people need clickbait, so people want to get on to see that his dad said that he requested $80 million. But hell, I want 100 for 10. That's 7 years, 100 million.
Coach, don't forget you
go.
got to request the flight to the away and home games. Remember that. You got to make sure to add that in there.
They keep forgetting Cam is young. He came out early. He young. 7 years, 100 million. That's a deal. It's a deal.
I absolutely love it, Coach. My next question for you before we get into the fan questions, though. Coach Ron Rivera caught some flack from the sports junkies on 106.7 and other people like Chris Russell saying that he shouldn't be golfing at Pebble Beach during the Senior Bowl. Do you feel the same way?
No. I mean, hey, that's why he hired people. That's why he has a staff. He don't have to be everywhere. If he don't trust the words of the people he hired, he don't have to be there. I mean, hey, go golf, relax, trust the people. You paid them people, let them earn their money.
Coach, why can't you just speak for everybody? It's crazy. It's like pulling teeth. I understand that they're just trying to get clickbait. That's their job, and I get it. But at some point, you got to realize that they're just going to stop listening to you because it's almost like the Monsters, Inc. movie where the whole time you're scaring the crap out of people just to find out that laughter would do it a lot better.
Yeah.
I think about that in the same circumstance here. I know, Reed, you're going to make a comment about me talking about Monsters, Inc.
No, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
We are joined by Hall. I'm not sure where his video is. I'm not sure if his sound is on though. Hall, are you there?
I don't see his video.
Oh, it said that he joined it. Oh, he's not in here anymore. My bad. I'm tripping. But let's get into our fan questions. And Coach, I want to ask you this from the Colonel. Left tackle and cornerback seem to be the coveted positions you hosts feel we'll use at 16 if we don't trade back. What is the next most neglected position in your opinion? Personally, I think we need to beef up our linebacking core. What a mediocre showing this year.
I don't know. If it was me, I'll probably waste my first 4 picks on offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd just be me. I think, I don't think the linebacker core was that poorly of a showing. Once the communication and everything got good and we was putting people in the right spots, we got mismatched a couple of times, but that's football. We out here playing chess. That's the offensive job. We got to remember it's professionals on the other side of the ball too. So it's their job to try to find that mismatch, and it's our job to try not to be mismatched. But it's going to happen sometimes. So I don't think, I would like another young linebacker or one that's been in the league a couple of years. Not too old, not somebody that's on their way out, but somebody that come in and contribute and help with these young guys. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I do agree with you, Coach. I do think the Colonel is being a little harsh here on the linebackers. One, given the fact that Cam Curl was lined up at linebacker for over 100 snaps this season, so he did plenty of work there at the linebacking core. And when Cam does come in, it makes everything easier for the linebackers because he plays with that natural instinct. He comes in and fills holes. He's so good in that breath where he does gel with everyone else around it. Jamin took a big step this year. He was used. He was able to get after the passer in those blitzing formations, very good in that sense. Then wearing the green dot, took a stride this year and being able to do that. And if you would have told us in the preseason that Cole Holcomb would be out and Jamin Davis would be wearing the green dot, I think half of Twitter would have had a heart attack. hearing
Yeah.
that. And the fact is he did very well with it. And then John Bostic coming off of the street, he was even, I think he was on the Texans or somebody else, if I'm not mistaken, and coming in, and obviously he did get picked on at one point in a crossing route, but that's going to happen when you have your best wide receiver on a linebacker. You're automatically that's going to happen. So I don't want to say that they had a down year. It's just they were injured, they were beat up, but it is a position that needs depth added to it. And I would expect that somewhat through the draft or free agency. Like I've brought up the 49ers linebacker, Shair, I think his last name is, but he's a young guy and hasn't played that much this year. I'm not sure if it was injury or whatnot, but I think that that's a position you need some depth in. I don't think it needs an overhaul by any stretch. So I still think it's going to be corner, to be honest with you, Colonel. That's what I want with 16. What about you, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I think linebacker was, I mean, you got to assume that we're going to re-sign Cole, and having the three safeties too kind of gives you so much more flexibility because you can use those guys in so many different roles. Like you talked about Cam playing linebacker, and the defense didn't really miss a beat. So having versatile guys like that always helps. But yeah, I was very surprised by Jamin Davis this year, and I think Cole Holcomb, of course, assuming that he comes back, it won't really miss a beat. And using those two linebackers, you're not really going to see much. But I'd like to bring in a veteran or somebody like that. But I still think corner is probably O-line is number one, corners right there, number two, and then just some depth pieces all around.
Like last season, Cam, I think, had just south of 100 tackles, and a lot of times people look at you and say that means your run defense is bad. It's not the same case with Cameron Curl based on what he's asked to do, because it's not like he's out in space a lot of the time. He's in that box. He's coming up making things happen. But the next question, coaches, is from the Colonel. I think Howell and Heineke are the way to go. I think Howell's reputation a year before the draft as being the number one pick was warranted. He lost 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers at Carolina and had to rely on his legs in his senior year with less weapons. What are your thoughts?
I'm a Howell fan. I before they decided to start Howell in that last game, I had already tweeted, that's who I wanted to see. Get a young cat a chance, man. Let's see what he can do. You know, I liked him in college and like what he did. Him and Heineke share that same kind of tenacity that you know, I ain't scared. I'm gonna go out here and work, and that's what motivates the guys. When they see their quarterback out there, you know, grinding and stuff, it motivates them. But you know how he do have a bit of a stronger arm. He can stretch the field a little bit more than Heineke. So I'm happy. I'm happy with what we got, man. I say we take those two and work with it. If we want to bring another a quarterback in for a depth piece or a little older guy to help, you know, with them guys learning plays and how to recognize defenses and stuff, I'm all for that. But hey, let's roll with them too.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But with Heineke coming back, I think it is at a price. Because obviously right now they only have $32 million if they were to release Wentz, and there's other moves that they could generate up to $60 million. I think we all know that. But the fact is, with Daron Payne, with Cameron Curl coming up, they're going to have to be diligent with the way that they spend that money, right? And so that's why I'm looking at this saying, with Sam Howell, I like it a lot for him to come in as a starter, and Taylor would have to come in, I think, at like $2 to $3 million per. And I know some people would probably laugh at that, but King Taylor guarantee he's going to do the same thing in another team. And I think that Taylor has a vested interest in loving this locker room and being loyal to a sense where he knows that he's coming into a situation where they know what he can do, whereas the expectation will be higher if he goes somewhere else. So I do think that has to be attributed here. I would absolutely love Taylor, but that's the one thing about the draft, Colonel, and that's why we all have to take a seat when it comes to these quarterbacks, because you have all those pros around you. Everything is great. You look like a number 1 overall pick. Can you do it without them? And a lot of the times what happens, like in a Robert Griffin III situation, when you trade up all those picks for a quarterback, when they get to the pros, they don't have the weapons around them because you traded all those assets to go get them. So can they work? And that's why a lot of the times when you draft a quarterback high up, they blow up because all their weapons are not there. And so I think that Sam Howell is a very good realization for a quarterback, a young quarterback, to say, wow, I got to get back to the basics, work hard, and be able to work without that many weapons. And if Sam Howell has that mindset, I think that he will be just fine. It's just depending on if he can stay healthy, man.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys pretty much already said it all. But yeah, I love Sam Howell, and I love the idea of bringing Heineke back. Because like Coach Greg said, they're so similar, and like they have similar personalities almost. It seems like they just both have that dog in them. You know, they're similar stature, similar size. It seems like the locker room loves both of them. Yeah, so it just seems like it's like a match made in heaven almost, where it's like when Sam Howell was learning from Wentz and Heineke was perfect because, like we talked about, he was like a combination of both of them. It was like he was Heineke size. He kind of has the dog in him like him. He's got his mobility, but he had like a big arm like Carson Wentz. So it was perfect for the kid. And I just hope that they can kind of keep that going forward. But they are going to have to bring in a third quarterback if those are the two that they keep. I mean, you got to have 3 quarterbacks on your roster, even though one of them doesn't dress. You still got to.
Yeah, I've heard like Gardner Minshew and stuff, but regardless, it's got
Gardner Minshew, the guy's a cool guy. I like Gardner Minshew.
He gets it. He gets it. The handlebar mustache and everything.
Yeah.
But it's got to be cheap, and that's the big question here is cheap, and that's what because we're gonna have to be able to re-sign our guys. But this question from the Discord chat server. This is from Scott Hartley in the UK. Coach Curl. Oi! If I'm too late for questions, let me know. You're not, Scott. Who's your highest rated prospect in the draft? Like Kyle's love for Jackson Carman.
Whoa. I don't know. To be honest, I only checked out a few cats. Looking at the stuff that people was predicting that we would probably draft, but I really haven't got into it too much right now because I still didn't watch the none of the stuff from the Senior Bowl yet. I want to check out something. So I don't really have a favorite right now. But, whoever the best offensive tackle is coming out of college, it'd be my favorite. It'd be my number one pick.
What do you think of Drew Sanders?
I like Drew. Yeah. I mean, shoot. I don't think they missed on none of the I saw one of the analysts talk about him, and I thought they hit him on every point. I think that that'll be a good pick too.
Yeah, well, because he's like that pass rusher. When I watched his tape with Arkansas, it's so unfortunate because it reminds you a lot of Cam, where he's in a lot of those positions to stop something, but the other pieces around it, allowing it to happen, kind of ruins it all. But I really like Drew Sanders. It's hard for me to say that, Scott. I would love to be able to say Darnell Wright, but I have to give that credit to Ryan Fowler for first telling us about it. So it's not like I can say that's my guy. But I'll tell you right now, it's 1A and 1B, and it's between Christian Gonzalez and it's Devin Witherspoon. I call those popcorn prospects, and what I mean by that is you don't need to have to search for those eye-popping plays. All you got to do is sit back with your popcorn, turn on the film, and they'll make those plays for you, and they'll show you their talent. And so for me right now, it's Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon. I think those guys are 2 of the best prospects in this draft.
Yeah, and I hate to kind of branch off of you, Kyle, but like my guy right now is Devin Witherspoon. I'm just all about his versatility, just the way that he played this past year, his athleticism, being able to play inside, being able to play outside. He's just that dude is a absolute stud, and he can do it all, and he's going to make some team very happy.
Yeah, and I know it's hard to say that. I'm sure I'll have another guy later down the road, Scott, once I get deeper into this draft and start feeling a certain way, because that's generally what happens.
Yeah.
But this next question is from Orange Crush 92. Garrett Walston was Sam Howell's tight end in college. He threw to him 20 targets a season. Walston would be like a 4th in targets in 2020 and 2021. Will a strong tight end situation help Sam Howell go further, Coach?
I mean, of course, having a good tight end gonna help any quarterback. I mean, yeah, but our situation, having a good, tall, strong tight end would definitely help because we're gonna run the ball, so we're gonna need somebody, somebody else up there that can block. And then when we doing our play actions, we're gonna need that tight end on that tight end to stretch the field. I mean, yeah, of course it's gonna help. I mean, I don't see how it wouldn't. Yeah,
dude, without a doubt, it's going to help, especially a big-bodied type of tight end for Sam Howell, somebody you could rely on, get the ball to in the short to mid-range situations there. The unfortunate part about last year is that like Logan Thomas was used in the complete opposite way that he was supposed to be, because coming off of injury, you don't have the same speed, flexibility, agility, and so he was used between the 20s. When he got into the red zone where he should have been used because of his height, because of his catch radius, he is an automatic mismatch for a lot of those DBs and linebackers. That's where he should have been used, where your speed and agility don't really matter because the red zone is so constricted. And it's really weird to me because that's where Cole Turner and Amari Rodgers come into play. That's where those guys are between the 20s stretching vertically, right? Like you said, Coach. And so it's just very weird that our tight ends weren't used the right way last season. And I know that tight end play is going to help every quarterback, but I feel like these in particular are going to help him a lot because they're big, jumping guys that can help him in the red zone. And that's going to be the most crucial point for Sam Howell is scoring points because he can win over this fan base by being able to do that. And hitting your tight ends in the red zone, it will absolutely help.
Yeah, and you always hear that young quarterback's best friend is a tight end, like their nice safety blanket leaking out, just being open, getting those nice, easy, short gains. And it's funny because I think it was an Eagles fan or something, even though, I mean, they have Dallas Goedert. He's an awesome tight end, but tweeted out something like, see Travis Kelce, see the way he's playing right now. That's why we need a tight end like that. And it's like, no shit. Everybody needs a tight end like Travis Kelce. That dude is unreal. Like, he's one of the greatest tight ends of all time. Everybody could use him.
He's a freak of nature, really.
Yeah.
With how twitchy he is, how big, and it's really crazy the fact that he is a playmaker like he is. But look, that's why Andy Reid is the best in the business, man.
Yeah.
He really does have an eye for the game of football.
He also loves cheeseburgers.
He does. Next question for you, Coach. Who would you rather have for offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy or Anthony Lynn? And would you be willing to pay whatever it takes to make sure we outbid other teams?
Offensive, I think I go with Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, that's who I would have. Anthony Lynn. I mean, I think he's a defensive minded coach. You know, more.
He's running backs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, running backs.
He's running backs coach.
Yeah. But yeah, I like Eric Bieniemy and the reason I say that, I think he fits our talent, what we have. I think he can call up the plays that will be more advantageous for what we have on the field and get the ball down and make a lot of points.
Coach, are you saying what I was saying at the end of last episode, saying that Sam Howell has the same tools as Pat Mahomes of sorts, and that's how Eric Bieniemy could kind of help in that situation? We're not saying that he is Pat Mahomes. Not saying he's going to be.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that style. You know, I'm not saying he's Pat Mahomes. I'm not saying he can do the no-look pass behind the head with 40 yards or whatever. But you know, hey,
escapability, big arm.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're gonna find out Sam Howell's younger brother that loves to be on TikTok going to be a star one day.
Dude, Jackson Mahomes is the worst. I never hated anybody more.
That's great. No, for me, Meest, thank you, Brandon. I do think that it's Eric Bieniemy by a long shot, and no disrespect to Anthony Lynn being the running back centric coach, but obviously everyone knows that a running game is going to really help a young quarterback. I mean, we've seen that with Brock Purdy, right? And also having the tight end in George Kittle, which proves both of our points with the Orange Crush as well. So I think Eric Bieniemy is the right move, specifically meaning the tools that have been in place with Sam Howell, but also the fact that he's been working under Andy Reid, picking his brain for 5 to 6 years, and that is really valuable going forward because you know what works, you know what the kind of work ethic, the game planning that needs to go on in order to be successful, and that's something that you want here. So without a doubt, it's Eric Bieniemy, and yes, I know it's not my money, but I'm just saying I would throw whatever I needed to get him here. And I know because Baltimore's enticing. I know that he's probably thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I would take either one, honestly. I mean, Anthony Lynn became a head coach for a reason. At the same time, Anthony Lynn also kind of flamed out as a head coach with Justin
I'm not going to cry about Anthony Lynn, dude. I would love Anthony Lynn.
Right. Yeah. But Eric Bieniemy, I think, like, if you're signing somebody like Eric Bieniemy, it's with the intention of being like, all right, after a year or so, if Ron ends up stepping away, we're going to elevate you to head coach. And that dude deserves a chance at head coach. I know that he's had his issues with players. I know that apparently LaShawn McCoy says a lot of players don't like him. Him and Patrick Mahomes get into it all the time, but the dude's a former player. He's fiery, and look at what he's done with Kansas City's offense. I mean, I know obviously a lot of people would have success with that offense, but that offense is genius. Like that.
People don't like it when their buttons get pushed, man. That's how my uncle is at work. You know, like that's just what it is. But he gets the most out of people, and sometimes that's what you need. Don't you know that, Coach?
That's right. That's right. Sometimes you got to.
Yeah, my man. That's why I like Coach. Now,
everybody, when you pushing people, everybody ain't gonna love you.
It's true. It's absolutely when you're real, people don't like you. You're absolutely right, Coach. This next question is from Tim Towner. What is the number one need for Washington in the offseason? The sale of the team, coaching improvements, player upgrade, and if player, what position are you addressing first? I think you already said it with offensive line earlier.
Yeah, but this whole thing with the sale of the team, I think they need to go ahead and just get that crap out of the way. Get it done so nobody's thinking about that, so we can figure out, hey, how we gonna move, how we gonna move forward and everything. That should be they should get that done, immediately.
Yeah, because you've had a
If they
lot of
go,
people talking about them being a lame duck staff. Like, you can't have that, man.
yeah, because people talking about they don't know if they're gonna try to bring people in and then do all this stuff. You know, that's probably why ain't no decisions being made right now because people are in the I don't know. So I think that's one of the things they should get done first, and then once they do that, then let's work on strengthening the team and putting this team together to do something in the future.
The number one need in the offseason is fixing the medical side of things and trying to figure out what's going on with the rash of injuries that we have when we do have them. It has become backbreakers. I think Philly's offensive line played all together, I think, for like 80% of the snaps, if I'm not mistaken. So they've always had the same unit, and that's what you gotta have to do. So my first need in the offseason is finding out why these injuries are happening, and let's get a solution for it. I'm not sure if it's cardio. I'm not sure if the offensive line, they all need to be required to wear braces on both knees. That way people don't get overextended and injured. There's always a theory. I know that they don't like to do it in the pros because these are grown men. They're gonna tell you, I make more than you. No, I'm not doing that, and I get that. But they have to find a solution to these rash of injuries because we can have the greatest guys in the world on our team, but if they can't stay healthy, they're not helping.
That's right.
Yeah, I still think, I mean, obviously, just the fan in me, I just want to see this sail so bad. I just want this to hurry up and get over with. We've been through this for too long, my entire life.
Reed, do you remember what 2017, us talking about dressing you up in a wig and having you go Donald Sterling Snyder at that time? And look where we are now, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Crazy how that worked out.
We also, I remember in 2017 when we first started being like, the good thing about Snyder, the only good thing about Snyder is he's never going to change the name. Like, he's never, and look what happened. So, and we also thought he would never sell the team. So
you're absolutely right about that. But to finish this off, guys, we got our prospect breakdown. Reed, did you get anybody prepped for today?
It's on my phone. Hold on, all right.
So for me, Tony Shivers requested for us to do a breakdown of Darnell Wright. 6'6", 335 pounds. This is a big cat, and he plays right tackle from Tennessee. He's actually killing the Senior Bowl right now. But when I see from him on film, I see a very athletic guy. He's pulled a lot, either to the left side or the right, and he does a very good job of getting out there. He dominated Will Anderson. I know that we've talked about Darnell Wright in ad nauseum, but he whooped his ass, Will Anderson. And that is somebody that you're looking for NFL gauge. You're looking for somebody who can translate the NFL. That's the best ability to be able to do that. Go watch Tennessee versus Alabama and watch that matchup at right tackle with Darnell Wright versus Will Anderson, and you will be very, very impressed. He's somebody that can do it all. He's got that feistiness about him. He does have that maliciousness, and that's something you need at the offensive line. I think Darnell Wright is the best lineman in this draft. Straight up, period. He's the best one in the draft, sitting at 6'6", 335. I think that DeJuan Jones is right behind that. I think the quality of this draft, in lineman speaking, is at right tackle, center, and guard. I think the left tackle is more towards the second to third round guys that you can get some really good production out of. Like Anton Harrison, I think is probably the only one I would give a first round grade for. But Darnell Wright, without a doubt, is the best lineman in this draft, and that's somebody you can plug in and play immediately.
Yeah, I love Darnell Wright as well. I think he's going to end up going to end of round 1 to end into round 2, something like that. So hey, he's somebody right tackle too. He's just a stud, just a big old boy. Mine's the exact opposite, and that is Clark Phillips III from Utah. He's 5'10", 183, cornerback. He played fantastic this past season. I think he had 6 interceptions. He had 6 interceptions.
I heard about him before.
And he's small, but he's feisty. He has these short little T-Rex arms, but they're jacked. And he's just somebody that you want to play inside. He's got super quick feet, fluid hips. Look, his 6 interceptions kind of speak for themselves. I mean, the dude's got ball skills, especially at his size. And he also did very good in man coverage for somebody his size, always sticking around his guy. It was very impressive. He's super competitive. But the one thing, the size, I mean, you're not really going to want to put him outside. Right. He's kind of a one-trick pony being on the inside, but you got to feel good about him on the inside. But he's somebody who I think will go round 2 to 3. And I think it was going to be higher, but then with some of these other, like Devin Witherspoon and these people kind of climbing up the boards a little bit, I think that's kind of going to push him back. But he's somebody, got to love Clark Phillips, picked off Caleb Williams, and he's part of the reason that Utah defense was so good.
Yeah, that's somebody that I've heard a lot of people talk about. So that's something that to think in the back of your mind if they do go a different route in round one, that they do have depth to go after later on in the draft. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode, everybody. I can't thank you enough.
Do I get a fan question? I got one fan question for you guys.
Yeah, what's up, Greg? 80 mil curl.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will come to your birthday party.
Do y'all think we could really afford Deron Payne right now?
It depends. Do you mean in franchise tag or multi-year?
Multi-year. I mean, he can name his price right now.
It's true. I think the only way that you can really be able to make it happen is if you have Sam Howell starting for multiple years, and that way you have that rookie contract to benefit from, and that's what you're building around. But I feel like the other aspect is that you backload his contract, meaning that you make sure that his money, the big money coming in, is the year after that Jonathan Allen's does. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you could balance it in that sort of breadth where you're kind of like canceling each other out in a way, but I feel like that's the only way of being able to get it done, and it's hard to be able to say that for Deron Payne because he wants to get paid now, right? And so I feel like it is a very sticky situation because you got Montez Sweat coming up, Chase Young, $17 million fifth-year option is coming up. Obviously,
getting that 80 mil.
Cam getting that 80 mil. That's all on the table, and that all needs to happen, and that's why we could talk about free agency all day long, but the fact is we have our own guys here that need money, and apparently we have a hard time of scrounging up cash to be able to pay them for it. So that's the unfortunate part about all this.
Yeah, that's the one thing that scares me, man.
Yeah, the salary cap, we're always looking at it going into the year, but like they always pull some. It's almost like a myth. Like you hear that all the time. Like teams find a way to make something happen. So I think if they want to, they can for sure. They can make some moves. They can make something go down. But will they? First year, I don't know. I do like what Kyle was talking about. Where kind of offset the contracts, where you kind of backload Deron Payne. I think that would make a lot of sense. But I'm not a salary cap guy. You know, I don't know all these things work. I'm not a numbers guy.
They got accountants on speed dial for that sort of stuff. They already got their own guy on staff, but. Everybody, I can't thank you enough for joining us for this episode, for contributing. Thank you to Scott. Thank you to Tony, Orange Crush, Tim Towner. Really do, and Colonel. I really do appreciate all you guys. And, of course, thank you, Coach Curl, for coming on here and being able to elaborate a little bit more on that tweet. It sent firestorms, man. I can't tell you enough. So many people are commenting on it, and I want it to keep going. Let's keep that fire going because we need to make sure number 31 is here for the long term.
Yeah. Hey, trust me, that 7-year $100 million gonna get them talking again.
I love it.
Next, tell people that Cam deserves to wear number 21, and we'll see what happens.
Don't
set this fan base on fire.
I would never say that.
I know you wouldn't. I'm just trying to set people
that
off.
Would do it. All right, everybody, that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. We'll see you guys again on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the Senior Bowl. We'll see you guys then. I'm Kyle.
I'm old dad.
Coach Greg, and hey, we're gonna have to talk to Hall. I don't know why he always leave when I show up.
So there was
he had to be the only black guy on here.
So there was actually a shooting outside of his house, and actually somebody got shot. Yeah, and so the police have been going around knocking door to door, asking questions, and so he was like, "I'm not going to be able to be on the show."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he said Courtney and the girls were very, very concerned, and so he wanted to be with them when they got home. And so I was like, okay, man, that's cool. It's probably safe and probably smart.
Damn.
So, happy wife, happy life, man.
Living that life.
He lives where we grew up, man, Germantown. It's crazy. Craziness. Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on Monday. Have a safe weekend. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!